Okay, there is publishing money, collector money. It literally belongs to you.
Which publishing royalties do most artists overlook?
I would say most probably mechanical royalties, because I think that the PROs are a little bit more well known. You know, ASCAP, BMI. In the UK, it's PRS. In France, it's SACEM. In Canada, it's SOCAN. They almost become like institutions of the country that everyone kind of learns about. Mm-hmm. But I think the mechanicals are a little bit less well understood. So I would say mechanical royalties, number one. And number two are really international royalties. Like music and streaming is becoming more and more global, and often a smaller percentage as an American artist, often a smaller percentage of your overall streaming picture is coming from the US. So I think a lot of people don't think about, you know, how am I going to maximize the value of collecting, not just where I live, but also internationally. And I would say that that's a big piece of the puzzle that people often overlook as well.
Yeah, got you. Songwriters as well, kind of same thing, mechanicals.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say that this is across artists, producers, songwriters, anyone who really is owed publishing royalties. And I would say sometimes producers in a way can have the hardest like time with it, because I think sometimes producers get in the mindset of, well, I'm selling beats, you know, I'll get in advance, and that's kind of where it ends. Maybe I'll try to get points on the master, but they might not realize, like, well, first off, I should be negotiating for publishing. If you're a producer and you're contributing musical material to a song, like that's part of the composition of that song, and you want to be advocating for yourself to get publishing. And I think sometimes producers maybe don't think of like, am I registering these songs? Am I making sure I'm collecting these shares? Because you know, as a producer, you're not necessarily getting a big check from the label. You're not necessarily getting a check from DistroKid. You know, you might get your advance for the session or for the beat, and then really your publishing catalog is where you want to be building your residual business. And, you know, it really is about building a business. I think that the beauty of publishing is that it compounds, right? You release 5 songs one year, the next year it's 10 songs, the next year it's 15. Each year, people are still listening to that music, but you're adding to it. And these royalties can really, really compound. And that's where we can talk about the power of ownership and the power of administration. Is like, not only is your songwriting catalog your body of work, and not only is it a revenue stream, it can become over years and years an important asset, where like that's where people start thinking really big about ownership and what's the legacy of this catalog. Is this something that I want to keep forever? Is this something where down the line when it's time to retire, I want to sell, or I want to give it to my kids or my grandkids? You know, I think that the earlier producers can start thinking that way about their businesses, the more options they're going to have as they build their careers.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a little break. Because if you're listening and thinking, fuck, I could really use some guidance right now, and you're serious about building your career in the music industry, I'm now offering private strategy sessions. These are fully personalized, just you and me tackling whatever you need in your career. With over 16 years of experience working with artists, managers, and brands, I can help you map out your next moves. Now, whether that's structuring your team, scaling your brand, navigating the industry, even figuring out what steps to take, whether to go to a distributor or to a record label, and figuring out what are the best deal points, I can help you with your career with where you're at. You can now book a one-on-one with me through my Calendly, and you can find a link in the description. Now let's get back to the pod. Important word that you said there, and I'd love for you to just break that down. What does compounding mean?
Compounding means that the value grows more and more as time goes on. Not just, oh yeah, another 5 songs, you know, $1,000 a beat, another $5,000. No, it's that the more you add to your catalog, if you're properly registering that catalog and you're collecting your songwriting royalties, and then you're adding to it, your income is growing not just like this, but almost like exponentially over time. And the key is time, right? Because publishing royalties don't last in the system forever, right? So when a song comes out, if you have publishing on that song, you want to find a way to register it, you want to add it to your catalog, and you want to make sure that you have your business straight, that you have your data straight, that you can see how much you're earning per year and how much you're earning every 3 years, now 5 years, and how that's increasing. Because as you get deeper and deeper into the game, especially as a producer, but also as an artist and a songwriter, that catalog becomes something that you can leverage in a lot of different ways, whether that's, again, by selling parts of it, or whether that's by keeping ownership of it and having it be a really powerful income stream or something that you can give on as a legacy. So when I say compounding, I mean ownership registering quickly and allowing the benefits of your growing music catalog to become a more and more valuable asset over time.
So you would say then that there is meaningful money as a songwriter or a producer, even if you're not a famous artist, when it comes to...
Absolutely. Often, some of the people who have the most valuable publishing catalogs are not the biggest celebrities in the world. At Cobalt, we represent a producer who I think is pretty famous because he's been so successful, but his name is Max Martin, right? If you were to say, who's the most famous musician in the world? And you ask 10 people, they probably wouldn't say him, but he is one of the most.
They know his songs.
But you know his songs.
I know the songs.
And, someone like that can build an incredibly valuable catalog. And again, as a producer and a songwriter, you might get paid for a session, but that's, it comes, it goes. The way that you build residual streams of income over time is by finding a publishing administrator, registering those songs, and building your publishing catalog. So I would say for artists as well, but especially for songwriters and producers, if you're trying to really build a sustainable living off of music, learning about publishing, learning about how to collect those royalties is absolutely fundamental to just being able to have longevity in this business.
Let's say I got a hit record.
Mm-hmm.
Billboard Top 10.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What type of money could I expect?
On the publishing side?
Yes.
Obviously, not every top 10 is the same, but I would say, Billboard Top 10 songs in total at 100% share. On the publishing side, over 3-4 years are often hitting 7 figures, right?
Low, mid, high.
I think it depends on the song, but I'll put it this way. We have writers on kosign who are producers or who are songwriters who might have not 100%, but maybe 50 or even 25 or even 15 or even 10% of top 10 Billboard songs. And even just registering a share like that quickly, not waiting too long since when the song comes out, you will generally see that you're generating maybe low 6 figures, maybe mid or even high 6 figures over the course of 1, 2, or 3 years. So it's unlocking a salary. It's unlocking not only a salary, but a pretty good salary. So that's where it's like, you don't have to be, the Grammy winning artist whose face is on the album artwork to make real money. Even if you are just part of the puzzle of a really successful song, it doesn't have to be a Billboard Top 10. It could just be something that, really had a moment on Spotify. Maybe it had 10, 50, 100 million streams. That is real income. That can be the difference between you struggling and grinding and all of a sudden oh, this is actually a pretty comfortable job. The key is you need to, 1, understand there's publishing in this.
Yep.
And 2, figure out how am I going to make sure I'm unlocking those earnings from the system where they're locked up until I go out and get it. And that's where something like a publishing administrator, that's obviously what we do at kosign, helps songwriters unlock money that should be theirs that they just need to get from their success.
So what you said, the sooner you do it, the better. Why is that?
So this is, I think, a really challenging thing about publishing royalties, which is they don't stay in the system forever, right? At a certain point, if you wait 2-3 years, the PROs, the streaming services, it's called unallocated royalties, right? They don't want to just hold and be sitting on that money forever. So at a certain point, they just liquidate it, quote unquote, and they might pay it out into things called the black box where they'll pay it to the majors because they don't want to be sitting on the money anymore. So what's important to know, if you're a songwriter, if you're an artist, you're a producer, and you release a song or a song was released that you have publishing on, you can maybe wait, a few months, but you really want to be on top of sending in that registration ASAP so that you can make sure that you're collecting the full life cycle of royalties that are associated with that song. So it's crazy. It feels almost like you shouldn't be able to release a song on Spotify without you seeing a public service announcement hey, there's publishing, collect this.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah.
Right? Is to be hey, there is publishing money, collect your money. It literally belongs to you, right?
Yeah.
But that's when I say you don't want to wait too long because I've seen lots of artists, lots of producers. Some of them, it's because they don't know about publishing royalties. Other times, it's because they say, I'm just waiting on my big deal. I'm going to get a giant check, a co-pub deal. We can talk about what that means. I'm just going to wait on it. So I'm not going to register the song because I'm just waiting to get my big publishing advance. And then what happens is a year goes by, maybe 2 years go by, maybe 3 or 4 years go by, and maybe that deal just for whatever reason doesn't materialize the way they think it will. And then all of a sudden, you're looking backwards and you're saying, oh, there was $100,000 of royalties. There was $500,000 of royalties. Maybe it was just $25,000 of royalties. Whatever it is that I could have collected and I just didn't because I was waiting on the sidelines. So that's what I mean, which is I say, publishing royalties are your money. The best way to collect it is to be quick. And when the song comes out, just say, hey, I'm going to go to my publishing administrator, whether that's Kosign, whether that's a different company, and I'm going to make sure, hey, this song came out. These are the splits on the song. Here's what I control. Go out, register it globally so you can turn on that tab of royalty for yourself.
Let's talk about the black box.
So the black box is a really challenging part of publishing landscape. And what it means is if you as a songwriter, an artist, a producer, someone who should be collecting your publishing royalties, if you don't go out and register that song to make sure you're collecting that songwriting income and a certain amount of time goes by, the PROs...
How much time?
It's not the same in every territory, in every PRO, in every platform.
I thought it was 2 years.
It's generally 2 years. And that's what I would say, don't wait more than 2 years. I think that's a good rule of thumb, but there is a little bit more complexity around it, which we don't need to get into because it's probably not that important. Here's what I'll say. You don't want to wait 1 year, right? Because if you wait past that certain amount of time, what the PROs or the streaming services will do is they'll just say, hey, you know what? We don't want to sit on this money. No one's claimed it. So we're going to put it into the black box, which means that in general, it will just get paid out to the major rights holders who can then do with it whatever they want.
And when you say the major right holder, I'm talking like Sony, Warner, and Universal Music Group. And it'll go to the artists that are on those labels.
It will go to whatever those companies want to do with it. And they have different ways of distributing it. But the important thing is that it won't go to you as the songwriter when it's your royalty. And this is, I think, why it's so important for artists and producers and songwriters and also their managers and also their representatives and also the people who are in their life trying to make sure that they are getting their business straight to understand if you have writing credit on a song and that song comes out, it is a ticking clock, right? Mm-hmm. You need to make sure that you are raising your hand and that you are submitting that song to every global registration society so that you can collect the songwriting royalties and so that they don't fall into that pool of black box where they're just going to the majors. And it's kind of messed up that the system works that way. Like it sort of almost feels like if you could write a conspiracy theory about like the music industry, it's like, oh, if people don't know that they should be getting their money, then we just pay it to the major music companies. Like that's sort of crazy.
Yeah.
But it's how the system is set up. And I think that's why we're so focused on education for people to understand, hey, publishing royalties exist. Wow. If you are a songwriter, this is literally your money. It's not anyone else's money. It's not the major's money. It's not Spotify's money. It's your money. And also to build tools to just make it easier for people to unlock that money so that it's not going to fall into the black box, but it'll fall into your bank account.
How much money would you say is in that black box?
There are different estimates. When we look at it, I'll put it this way. We think that there is at least $1 billion, that's billion with a B, of uncollected publishing royalties that aren't reaching the proper songwriter or producer or artist.
Annually or over the amount of time? Like, what do you mean $1 billion?
We think that at any given amount of time, right now, there's $1 billion of unallocated royalties that are not being collected, right? And that is, I think for us, a massive problem because who should be getting that money? Everyday artists, songwriters, producers. This isn't like $1 billion that's not making its way to like, a giant bank or to some rich corporation. This is $1 billion that's not making its way to working musicians, right? Who are sacrificing every day, grinding every day to refine their craft, to write better songs, to collaborate with other artists, to build their audiences. And there's $1 billion that belongs to them that isn't getting to them. And I think our mission and my personal mission in this business is to get people to understand that money exists. It belongs to you if you're a songwriter, and you need to learn how to take advantage of the tools available to you to just claim it and collect it. And it's not really trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be. Like we can get into, here's the difference between performance and mechanical and sync, and here's the historical places they come from. All that's really interesting to understand. But I would say to an artist or a songwriter, to keep it really simple, it's just this. If you write songs, there is songwriting royalties that are owed to you. You don't get paid them automatically by default. So it's time for you to understand that there are tools out there for you to make sure that you're unlocking those royalties for yourself so that you can keep it moving and keep building your career. And at the end of the day, I don't want artists to have to spend their entire lives thinking about this but they need to understand that it's out there so that they can collect what's theirs. And if we can shrink that billion to a much, much smaller number, like then we've done our jobs.
Fair enough.